just a reminder because I've had some emails about it and people asking me. So I want to make sure that everybody knows what's happening with the grades because I mentioned it on Tuesday, but maybe I went through it fast or whatever. So because I decided to extend the deadline for discussion 3, I looked on and I noticed that some people hadn't had a chance to do like the replies or only one reply. So because of last week's situation, I know that there's still some people who are trying to stabilize their connection issues. I wanted to make sure that I gave enough time for that. And since we don't have a discussion this week, I felt fine extending that deadline to Sunday. So if you haven't turned in everything that you needed to for discussion 3, I haven't graded it because it wouldn't be a very good grade if it wasn't complete. And also you have until Sunday then to finish that and get that turned in. Okay. And get that turned in so that I can grade them next week. Now that poses a slight problem for the East report card because report card grades were for the 4-6 weeks were due today. That deadline already passed. So what I did was, if you look in the portal, you will see we only have 3 grades just for the first 3 discussions in 4-6 weeks. If you didn't finish discussion 3, then I temporarily put a 0 just to inspire you to make sure you get it done. And on the report card, it will be an incomplete. So as soon as Sunday rolls around and I see that you've finished, I'll go back in, I'll change that 0 to whatever grade it is in Blackboard, and then I'll change your incomplete to whatever your average is for the 3. I could have moved discussion 3 into the 5th-6th weeks, but then that would only leave 2 grades in the 4th-6th weeks. And I just feel like that's super slim. So that's the way that it's working. So if you go into the portal and you see, you know, a 61 or something because I put a 0 for discussion 3, don't freak out. The report card will show an incomplete. I overwrote it and I did all my grade magic and put in an I. And if you don't do the discussion, then next week that will magically turn into that grade, but I'm sure you all will. So trying to give everybody enough time and leeway to do a good job and really think through the responses. So far, I've been impressed with the discussions for the most part, and I think everybody's really doing a good job of looking into the literature. So I didn't want to say, oh, hurry up and do it, you know, get it done, whatever, just turn something in. I think that, you know, if you want quality work, you have to give the time frame for it. So any questions on how that's working with the grades? If you have an eligibility issue, then you can just turn it in as soon as possible. Email me that you've turned it in. And if you want your coach or your sponsor or whatever to email me, I can tell them what your grade will be. And it'll be changed, you know, early next week. But people have to allow for these situations when we have a whole week off school and, you know, all that stuff's going on. So I think people will generally understand. I don't see, let me see, is there anything in the chat? No comments? No comments, okay. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Today we have a discussion on the horrible tragedy that is Act 5 of Othello. Did you find yourself yelling at Othello in Act 5? Because I always do. It's sort of like the end of Romeo and Juliet, right? Where Romeo doesn't know that Juliet's not really dead. She just took a potion. Oh, y'all read Romeo and Juliet, right? I think you did.
Yes, I did.
Like an English one? Yeah, English one, right? So, you know, you're kind of like, no, don't kill yourself, Romeo. She's really alive. And it's kind of like that also in Othello, because Othello kills Desdemona, he strangles her in his anger and belief that she has been unfaithful to him with Cassio. And she hasn't, of course. And so you just want to say, no, Othello, just wait. Emilia will explain everything. and Rodrigo's got some letters in his jacket. So it's kind of like that. And we call that dramatic irony, because we know something as readers that, or viewers of a play, that the characters don't know. If Othello knew that she was innocent, then he probably wouldn't strangle her. But that's the tension and the crisis that happens in these sorts of tragedies. And so we're going to wade through that today using the study guide. Let me go ahead and open that up. We have how many deaths in Act 5? Let's see, Rodrigo dies. He gets killed by Cassio because, well, Rodrigo started it. Well, Iago started it. And he persuades Rodrigo to attack Cassio because Iago has promised Othello that he would kill Cassio, but of course he doesn't want to do it himself. So he tries to get Rodrigo to do it, and Rodrigo tries, but Cassio's wearing body armor, just random. And so then Cassio stabs Rodrigo. Then, who's the next one that dies? Desdemona is killed by Othello. He smothers her in her bed. She dies, sadly, not even knowing why Othello is killing her. And that whole scene is kind of heartbreaking because she's like, I don't know what I did. I'm innocent. I'm going to kill you anyway. Okay, what? Okay, my lord. And she just sort of like goes, do what you have to do. And so he kills Desdemona, an innocent in the whole thing. Who else dies? I said Rodrigo, Desdemona, Emilia. Emilia is killed by Iago because she's about to blab all about what happened and how he orchestrated the downfall of Othello, because she puts two and two together right in that bedroom, right? As Desdemona's laid out there on the bed, she the whole handkerchief thing clicks for her, and she realizes that the handkerchief she gave to Iago, he used it and planted it on Michael Cassio in order to make Othello jealous. So she puts two and two together and she starts challenging him about it. And he goes, go home. You're like, shut up. And she won't. And so he kills her. And then we have the death also. That's the third one. The fourth one is Othello himself. After he realizes that his wife was indeed innocent, they're going to take him off, but he kills himself with a knife. They disarm him with his sword, but they don't realize that he also had a knife, and he kills himself with it. And then there's a fifth one that might have slipped by you, but there's a fifth death that is reported in Act 5, and that is the death of Brabantio, Desdemona's father. Remember that guy back from Act 1 who was all like, oh, you bewitched my daughter into marrying you? And he's like, no, she straight up fell in love. That guy died. And the Lodovico and Gratiano come to Cyprus, and they say that her father has passed away. So that's a lot of death in Act 5, and that's really how these Shakespeare tragedies go. You know, it's sort of like a whole lot of lead up, a whole lot of complications, and then the ending is just sort of like plop, 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 there goes all the dead bodies, and they're all piled up on each other. And Hamlet's like that, Romeo and Juliet's like that, and that's just how those tragedies go sometimes. So let's see, what else was I going to talk about? Let's go through the study guide. Why don't you, I have the chat open here. Why don't you put in any numbers that you want me to talk about for scene 1. Scene 1 is mainly about Rodrigo and his death and Cassio and all that. Number 8. Okay, what is the importance of Iago saying this is the fruit of whoring? Every class has asked me that one. I wonder why. Okay, so the fruit is a metaphor, obviously, for it's born from whoring. So what he's saying is, he says this to Emilia, it's probably a threat. He's probably threatening her against revealing any information. She can definitely incriminate him, but also it could be a threat about loyalty and about, you know, making sure that she stays loyal to him in multiple ways, not just in, you know, marital relation type ways. But he does say this is the fruit of whoring, meaning this is what comes from not being loyal. And it's a bad sight to behold. I don't think we have enough proof to say that Emilia was unfaithful to Iago. She jokes around with Desdemona quite a bit about the nature of relationships between men and women, and she's kind of on the downside of it. I probably would be too if I was married to Iago. But she says stuff to Desdemona like, well, men are stomachs and women are just food, and when they're done with us they just throw us back up again. You know, she's got sort of a downer opinion of men in general. So maybe he's just trying to warn her that her loyalty is necessary, that kind of thing. What other ones do you want me to talk about? Number 10. Okay, I'll put my glasses on. That's a long one. O brave Iago, honest and just, that has such noble sense of thy friend's wrong, thou teachest me, minion, your dear lies ahead, and your unblessed fate highs. Strumpet, I come. For of my heart those charms, thine eyes are blotted, thy bed lust stained shall lust's blood be spotted. Okay, so this is Othello, who is on his way at the end of scene 1, Act 5, scene 1, to go and murder Desdemona. And the irony, of course, is that she's innocent, but also we have to admire the fact that as he's been successful in convincing Othello that his wife has betrayed him in the worst way, that she's having, you know, sex with his best friend and right-hand man behind his back, Othello still thinks that Iago's a good guy. How has Iago managed to maintain the perception that he's, you know, helpful and loyal and trustworthy and all those things? I think that is kind of like his greatest accomplishment, because I don't know how you can do all these plots and schemes underneath the surface and still have everybody think that you're great. That's pretty good feat. So when he says brave Iago, honest and just, it's a signal to us that he still believes in Iago, that Iago has only been a friend to him and in his way. And even as Iago is trying to get him to believe in the affair, he's still person number one. He even says, you'll be my lieutenant now. And so just as he's even going to do the thing that is going to ruin him, he still believes that Iago is his friend and true and honest. And the rest of it is about how he speaks to right here, he changes who he's talking to. And this is kind of like an apostrophe. Do y'all know that term apostrophe? I don't know if I mentioned it first semester. Not the punctuation mark, but apostrophe, like you're speaking to someone or something that's not present. So he speaks to Iago, who is there up until this point. Then he says strumpet. So he's saying like, Desdemona, I'm coming to you. For of my heart, those charms, thine eyes, your eyes are blotted. In other words, everything that used to be beautiful about you is stained now because of his belief in her infidelity. So that's how we know that he's about to go and actually murder her. Thy bed, you know, which is where he's going to commit the murder. He's going to strangle her there in bed. So that one's important because it demonstrates all of those qualities. Go ahead and put in any others. You can move on to scene 2 if you have some there. Now, I want to point something out while you're looking for questions that you want me to talk about. I want to point out that when you read Act 5, it's a little different from the other acts because things happen very quickly in Act 5. And the way that it's written out in the text, you have to read it sequentially. You know, like you have to read Rodrigo says, oh, you've hurt me. Then somebody yells something, then somebody comes in. Probably all those things would be happening at the same time on a stage production. So even though we're reading it one after the other, if we were watching it, those things would all be happening at once. So it's kind of like you have to try when you're reading a play, especially in scenes like that, to envision how everything would be coming together in a real scene, like in a real life portrayal of those events. Yeah. So scene 2 is all about the death of Desdemona, Emilia coming in too late, her death, Iago trying to protect his secret, and then the downfall of all of that. There's some significant quotes here that you can ask me about if you want. I like this question at the end. Is Iago's arrest enough of a punishment? I want to point out that you can think about your own opinion of that, but I want to talk about how blown out of proportion this play gets, or Iago gets, based on his perceived slight. The whole reason Iago tries to bring about a downfall of Othello is because of a pretty minor situation. He got passed over for a promotion. Well, lots of people got passed over for a promotion today. So it's not like that's a huge insult. You might hurt for a while. You might be like, oh man, I thought I was going to get that. You might be upset. You might quit your job and get a different job. These people don't value me. But in the end, that's not a huge offense. His reaction to that offense is so extreme that we have to wonder what else is going on there. Because, if everybody went and completely plotted the downfall of their boss and the murder of his wife every time they didn't get a promotion that they thought they deserved, we'd have lots of murders going on. So why does he take this one situation that Cassio is promoted before him and blow it so out of proportion where he just wants to see Othello completely demolished? And he doesn't even care if an innocent like Desdemona or Cassio get in the way, or his own wife. That just seems kind of overly, ambitious of a recompense. That's more than revenge, if you know what I mean. So I don't know. He just got arrested. I think I wanted something worse to happen to him. I don't know how you feel about that, but there might be something that happens to him. Cassio is going to get to, decide his punishment because Cassio is the new governor of Cyprus, but I don't know. All right, I don't see anything else in the chat. Do make sure that you've got some ideas about these elements. You might get a theme question from Othello on the midterm, and those would be the words I would use if I was going to ask you to create a theme from Othello. I did put an image on here. I think looking at the images can help us kind of like reevaluate and just sort of sum up what happened in the play. Here we have Desdemona on her deathbed right there. And then here is Othello. I'm assuming this is after he has already stabbed himself. Here is definitely Iago, who is being arrested by the guards. I don't know, maybe this is Cassio. It's hard to tell who's who. But yeah, there's some guards here. Lodovico is in that scene and Graziano's in that scene. So there's all these people that are here. I don't know, is Emilia there? Can you see her? Oh yeah, there she is. Emilia is right. I guess I do need the glasses. Emilia is right here. Here she is passed out, dead next to Desdemona. I thought she was in that scene. This is probably Lodovico or Graziano. This is probably Lodovico. Anyway. Okay, I don't see anything else in the chat, so I'm assuming that you feel like you're okay with Act 5. I'm gonna play the video. We left off at the end of Act 2. We will not get to the whole video today. I'll just play it until 1:30 or so, which is the end of our synchronous time. And then we'll just watch the ending part tomorrow. We should be able to get into a good ways into Act 4 though. So if there aren't any more questions, I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to the video.